Hello, Namaskar, Vanakkam. Welcome to Careers with Sudhir. My name is Sudhir Sahasranaman. We are going to talk about the CBSE marking controversy. A lot of developments have taken place in the last 24 hours, and I want to put this in perspective for those of you who may not be really aware of the intricacies of this entire fiasco, as students are calling it on social media. Now, the CBSE made some important announcements to pacify students because there's a lot of anger among students who feel that they have not been given the kind of marks that they were expecting. And it's not a difference of 2 3 marks that happens. The marks, for example, a student who was expecting 86 has got something like 70. Now that's a huge drop. Students do not make such wrong assessments. It may go 5 marks here and there, but 15 marks, that's a huge kind of difference. Serious questions, however, still remain unanswered on the entire evaluation process. So I'm going to put this all out here. What did the government, the CBSE, the school education department say, and what are the questions that are still being raised over this entire marking controversy? Now, the CBSE has agreed to reduce the fee for the re-evaluation process. Now, this is something which was a major demand which was being made by the student community. I also articulated it here. I'm not taking any credit like some TV channels are saying, our impact. Nothing of the sort. The students wanted it. The CBSE has listened to that grievance. So they have decided to reduce the fee for the entire re-evaluation and verification process. So the cost of verification of the answer sheet, which was 500 rupees earlier, has now been reduced to 100 rupees. That's a good enough drop. The cost of obtaining a scanned photocopy of the answer sheet, because that's what students were saying. You have already scanned it. Why do you want to charge 700 rupees to furnish that, to give that to the student? So now that has also been reduced to 100 rupees. Then the fee to challenge a specific question earlier was 100 rupees per question. That has been reduced to 25 rupees per question now. Okay, so these are the 3 reductions that you need to keep in mind. Okay, now if a student's marks increase after the review, the application fee will be fully refunded. That's also being done by the CBSE. The process to apply for verification, it is a different stage process. So please go to the CBSE website to know exactly, but it is starting from the 19th of May. The process starts from the 19th of May. So whatever you need to do, you need to look at the CBSE website to know exactly when to apply, where to apply. So this is, but 19th of May is the starting date. Okay. Now, another thing which I want to tell you is, this is thanks to an RTI application which was filed by an educator. This reduction has been made possible only because everybody raised a hue and cry over the steep fee for verification and getting scanned copies. Okay, now educationist Keshav Agrawal got this information through RTI and he has put it there on X, that in the financial year 2024-25, that is 2 years back. Okay, I mean the last academic year, or it's a financial year, it must be correlating to the academic year. CBSE collected rupees 3.09 crore for providing photocopies of answer sheets. But that's not all. It collected 20 crore rupees as rechecking and re-evaluation fees. So total 23 crore rupees was collected by CBSE just through the process of re-evaluation and rechecking and verification of the answer scripts and the marks. That's a huge sum of money. And probably if this hue and cry had not been raised, CBSE would have raised maybe this time even more, 30 crores, 35 crores, 40 crores, who knows, right? So CBSE, the second point that was made yesterday, it has clarified that no AI was involved in the evaluation, the checking of answer scripts. That is another point that has been clarified by the department. It said 98 lakh answer scripts were evaluated by 77,000 human teachers on the digital portal. Okay, so they are trying to say that AI was not involved in the process. CBSE also said, and this is a fair point, I would say, this is a fair point for CBSE, that the advantage of using the on-screen marking was that the CBSE could send an answer script from a city, let's say in the southern part of India, to the northeastern part of India, from the eastern part of India to the western part of India, right? That would have been possible. Otherwise, when it is physical copies, all of them get sent to one city, or it can be sent somewhere in the neighborhood in the same zone, right? So this allowed them to kind of send it to different places. That was the advantage with actually going entirely digital. So when physical copies are involved, you have to send them within the same region or to a specific city. So if scripts are from Punjab, they would all be sent to Bengaluru. If scripts from Hyderabad, they would all be sent to Kolkata, right? Now in this case, half the class, say let's 5 scripts, let's send them to Kolkata, 5 scripts to Jaipur, 5 scripts to Chennai. You can distribute it like that. So you get a variety of teachers, different kinds of teachers to evaluate students even from the same school. Then the school education secretary Sanjay Kumar admitted that around 13,000 answer sheets. Now this is an important point, that 13,000 answer sheets had severe discrepancies on the on-screen marking and they could not be adequately processed. So CBSE claimed that they were pulled out and they were checked manually. That is, physically they were checked. So CBSE is saying that they were considerate enough that they pulled out these answer scripts and checked them manually. Great, very good. In fact, this is a point which I cross-checked with some of the educators who were part of the evaluation teams, and they did say this to me, that whenever, and this was off camera because everyone is so scared to speak on camera. So if you are an evaluator, if you are a teacher who had part of the evaluation process, and if you wish to speak on camera, please reach out to us on our email ID, which is given in our About Us box, swsengage. You can at gmail.com. You can reach out to me and we can have a conversation. So whenever the scan was not clear or a wrong set of answer script was sent, or maybe a page was missing, it was returned for rescan and reallotment. So teachers who are part of the evaluation process have said this, that this is something they did. They were considerate enough, right? So if that was done, fine. But the question is that the students are now asking is, you are admitting to 13,000 answer scripts which were not scanned properly, and therefore they had to be physically evaluated. Isn't it possible that 13,000 were extreme cases where it was simply not possible to read what was written by the student, right? Isn't it possible that in some cases it may not have been so bad? It's possible that out of an answer script of 10 pages, 8 pages may have been okay. 2 pages may not have been okay, and the teacher would have said, okay, let me just try to figure out what the student has written. Okay, on the basis of that, I will mark. Would that have been possible? See, these are concerns of 17, 18-year-old students. What do you say to them? These are logical fears. These are fears, anxieties which you can understand, that some borderline errors may have gone unnoticed and the student may have got penalized or not got the kind of marks he or she deserved. So that is a logical question that the students are writing. CBSE admitted that despite high resolution scanning, students who use light colored ink or pens had their text practically rendered illegible on the computer screens. This confirms the exact fear educators raised, that parts of written answers vanished or blurred during the digitization process. Okay, this is how the evaluator was looking at the computer screen. Now, the question I want to ask is, if the CBSE knew that they were going to evaluate the answer scripts on screen marking method, why didn't they tell all students very, very clearly that the ink that they use has to be dark? You cannot use any light colored ink, or a pencil, a gray pencil, which is very blunt and therefore not kind of, not being very legible. You should have told that to students. Why didn't you do that? You should have made it very clear, broadcast it, and let everyone know, the 17.68 lakh students know that you need to use pens which are dark colored and not light colored. That was your responsibility. Then this kind of problem wouldn't have come. In my earlier video, I spoke about the fears of students and teachers who evaluated the papers, that the OSM portal needs a very strict and a very rigid system. It is programmed that way. It is programmed that way. So if a student, and this is again a concern that many students have raised, that if a student drew a diagram which was slightly big and it went beyond the margins, that meant that the entire diagram was not scanned properly and therefore not legible, not visible to the evaluator. What would happen in that kind of a case? Or if something was written on the margins, unless the evaluator zoomed in some way to the scan or asked for a rescan. So now when you check so many scripts in a day, would the evaluator really go in for rescan or something, or just press next ki chalo aage chalte hain? Not every evaluator will be considerate and sensitive enough and caring enough for the child to do so. That is again a fear that many students have, especially when it's a child who was expecting 90 and got a 70, right? Obviously that child is going to raise these kind of questions, and it is the CBSE's responsibility to respond to all these queries. Then this year has seen a massive increase in the compartment cases. Now let's look at some data points. Compartment cases are 1.63 lakh students. 1.63 lakh students. That is 34,000 more than last year. Last year it was 1.29. 34,000 more students have got a compartment this year compared to 2025, 24, 25. Now the compartment cases are 9.2% of the total number of students who took the class 12 boards. That is 17.68 lakh students took the board examinations. 9.2%, close to 10%, are those who have got compartment. That is 1 in every 10 students. 1 in every 10 students has got a compartment. I don't know why it has been depicted as a girl. It could have been a boy. No, I mean, it doesn't mean that it will be only a girl who will get it. Okay. Now, the other main crisis was in the subject of physics. Physics is always invariably the toughest examination. I have seen this across boards. Physics paper is always the toughest. Okay. In physics, it was identified as the most problematic subject, and educator Keshav Agrawal in his tweets has put out, in his video has put out, that more than 50% of the total failures, approximately 94,000 students, were in physics alone. That out of the 1.63 compartment cases, 94,000 are just in one subject, that is physics. Okay. Then 90, in fact, only 96 students out of 17 lakh 68, of course, that includes humanities and commerce also. I don't have the figure of only the science students, but only 96 students have scored 100 on 100 in physics. That's a very small number. Maths, the number is 1,283. Chemistry, it is 1,061. English, it is 2,401. Of this, let me take the credit. Many of them would be my students on CBSE with Sudhir YouTube channel. Overall, only 17,000 odd students scored 95% and above, and 94,000 above 90% and above. Okay. Now, in my previous video, I've spoken about students who got 95 to 98 percentile in JEE mains and qualified for the JEE advanced, which took place on the 17th of May. But some of them did not secure the 75% cutoff that you need to get into one of the IITs. So they may get a seat in the IIT, but the 75% will be the roadblock. And just imagine you're able to crack a JEE which is 8 to 10 times more tough than your CBSE board examination paper, physics, chemistry, mathematics. But here you fail to score a 75%. Is this even acceptable? Just tell me, is it even acceptable? I mean, it's not believable at all. Then the big question is, will OSM continue next year? Now, this was also raised yesterday, and the government said, yes, OSM system will not be scrapped. It will continue in future cycles. So the lesson for the next batch of class 12 is not to repeat the mistakes of the batch of 2026. 2027 batch should be careful not to write in the margins, be using very sharp dark colored pens, and everything to be proper so that you do not leave anything to chance. Yes, the scanning process is something which the CBSE will have to keep in mind. It has pointed out that many of the other universities and boards also use it. He mentioned Vishveshwaraya University, he mentioned Cambridge board, etc., which uses the OSM method to evaluate. So if you are doing this, my request is very simple, that please train teachers to become familiar with the system, because this is time it seemed to have been done in a hurry at the very last minute, not like 6 to 8 to 10 months in advance. So you don't make it chaotic and rushed, you make it in a normal, cool manner. Do a software audit, very important. Do a software audit to remove any technical glitches. This year there have been reports of poorly scanned copies, as you have admitted, invisible answers, the internet connectivity, everything. So ensure that all that is in place, is rectified. In the past, teachers could manually adjust marks in MCQs to help students pass, but the OSM system removed this flexibility, contributing to a drop in scores. Now that's another kind of feedback that one has got, that पहले थोड़ा सा adjust हो जाता था, now the system doesn't recognize any such flexibility. So it goes, if you are getting a 28, a 28 is a 28. A 28 cannot be made into a 32, right? Or a 33, the pass marks. Okay, so that will not be done. That's another reason people say for the failures this time. There are also reports that due to delays caused by the OSM, some subjects like economics, now this is subject to verification. This is something which is I've received as part of feedback. They had to be manually checked at the last minute to ensure that the results were released. This is subject to verification. This is a feedback that I've got from someone, right? So these are all the concerns, the present situation as far as the entire CBSE marking controversy is concerned. As I said, the window to start the verification process starts tomorrow, so don't miss the opportunity. If you think you have been wronged, please do apply for verification now that the fee has been drastically reduced. So take advantage of this opportunity so that you don't miss out. If you realistically deserve a higher score, there is no reason why you should let go of this opportunity. And for the CBSE, ensure that the next batch of 2027 does not face any such glitches. Thank you very much. Share the video with whoever you think is concerned about the problem, and subscribe to the channel for all such news from the world of education and career counseling. Thank you very much. Namaskar.